Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital of Combat. Name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to preview this Saturday's super welterweight, junior middleweight, however you want to call it. It's a triple header, 3 title fights, 3 highly skilled competitors, and fights that we could consider a toss-up for all 3. First off, we have Erislandy Lubin versus Charlo. We have Hurd versus Trout, and we have Erislandy Lara versus Terrell Gausha.
And that's with the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles on the line.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of hardware up for grabs, a lot of skill to overcome to keep or get those belts. So we're looking at some high-level fisticuffs come Saturday. I'm gonna let Rob start wherever he wants to start. Go.
All right, so in this triple header of guys who are established versus guys who are looking to continue to make a name for themselves, let's start with Hurd, who has the IBF junior middleweight title, versus Trout, the former champion out of Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Yes.
I think he fights out of DC or Maryland now. Somewhere. But this is a huge step up for Hurd.
Oh yeah, he's got a former world champion, and it's a step up from stepping up in his last fight versus Tony Harrison, who was a very good fighter, and they were fighting for a title that was vacant at the time, but that was the best competition he had faced up to that point.
Yeah, and this is now, if that was a prospect contender, kind of, let's get one of these guys a belt, and this is now a champ. No, this is now a contender with the belt versus a guy who is still hungry, who has showed hunger from the time that he got a belt to every fight he's had after that. If you know anything about Trout, he had to go ply his trade in Mexico for a few years, get a belt, and then he's fought Erislandy Lara, Canelo Alvarez, Miguel Cotto, and Jamal Charlo. So he's fought 4 very good guys. Unfortunately, he lost at 3. 2 were very close fights. So the experience level between these two is a huge difference. And not only that, Trout is looking much better, hitting harder. He's sitting down his punches. So offensively, he's looking much better, as well as his defense. And he's much more willing to engage. A guy like Hurd really is the bigger guy in the ring. I think he's about 6'1". He should be heavier in this fight than Trout. But being heavier, having a longer reach, he doesn't really use his reach like you would think a taller fighter would.
Yeah, he does like to invite guys on the inside so they can work, and he shows a very underrated inside game. He has a lot of old school moves to what he does, and it translates very well to guys who like to get in there and mix it up so he can create openings that usually aren't there with guys who like to fight on the inside. Trout, on the other hand, likes to move in and out. He does mostly counter punching, but like Rob said, he's now starting to get more familiar with going forward, but he's still doing it from range. So that can cause Hurd a lot of problems. But even though this was part of his game plan versus Harrison, he was still losing rounds versus Tony Harrison because Tony Harrison was working very well from range. So if Trout can keep up that pace, keep working from range, which we believe he can, Hurd might be behind the 8 ball late in this fight.
And considering that Trout is a southpaw, he presents a whole slew of other problems. So look for that straight left hand to find his way. Especially and to the body. He did a lot of good body work versus Jamal Charlo in the fight that they had. I was very surprised about not only how well he did in that fight, but how well he landed that straight left to the body and upstairs.
Yeah. So Trout has a very good chance to pick up a title here. Now, it's up to Hurd to step up once again and show everybody that he's the goods. He has a lot of potential. Even if he loses this fight, that doesn't take away from the potential he has. He can still be a player in this division, win or lose. But I'm leaning more towards Trout on this one. I think Trout can take the decision. I think he can outwork Hurd enough to win a decision. even if Hurd starts to come on late.
So I'm taking Trout too. Split decision, because I think Hurd will start to come on as the fight wears on. But what he needs to do is not get caught squared up and not allow Austin Trout to take angles on him, because being a southpaw fighter, if he starts stepping to his outside, it's that left hand is coming down the pipe. So he has to be able to keep Trout in front of him.
Yeah, Hurd does like to lean over to create certain angles. And unfortunately, with Trout being southpaw, like you said, that he's going to bend over to his left and create that angle to land that hand easier for Trout. So we'll see how that plays out. So let's move on to the next fight, which we have another southpaw, Lubin, taking on Charlo, who is coming off a 5-round destruction of Charles Hadley. And Lubin, who has not faced anyone with a losing record, still has not faced anyone the caliber of Charlo. So this is a big step up for him. And Charlo, who has been taking on his stream of very good competition as well, is taking on another up-and-coming guy who is going to be hungry to take the shine that Charlo has.
And speaking of another guy who's hitting harder now, Charlo is hitting extremely hard. Actually, both Charlo brothers are.
Well, yeah, Jermell was known as the boxer. Jamal was known as the knockout guy. Now they're both knocking people out. So we gonna have a fight on our hands with Lubin, because Lubin, to me, reminds me a lot of Errol Spence.
Which is weird, because Jamel Charlo is sparring with Errol Spence.
Yes, so I think he would be very well prepared for this fight. But Lubin, I think, is a little bit faster, hand speed wise, than both Spence and Charlo. He can put them together, and he can put them together fast. Especially that right hook. That right hook, he can fire that bad boy out of nowhere. He can do it in combination. And when he gets going, he can land some heavy leather. Unfortunately, just like Spence, he can't be hit. And against a guy like Charlo, who is really big and who is starting to find his power, you don't want to get hit.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's another toss-up, because can Charlo take that fire from Lubin? And can Charlo take advantage of those openings that Lubin gives you and maybe hurt or deter him enough to where he can secure a decision? That's really where this one plays out, is who can hurt who more often or enough to either get a stoppage or just discourage him enough to get a victory. I think that's where this fight's going to play out, because both of them can box very well. Both of them hit pretty hard. And both of them are very technically sound. So these little windows are going to be small, and you have to be really good to take advantage of them. I think both guys are good enough to take advantage of those windows. It's just going to be who can do it first and who can do it more often. What you got before we go on?
It's going to be a really close fight. I think it's actually going to end in knockout. I think it's going to be close. I think there's going to be, at some point, some real leather being landed on both guys. But I think Jamel Charlo being a little bit taller, having that greater reach, is going to be able to time him from the outside, unless Lubin decides that just kind of throws caution to the wind, come up with that hard guard, and try to encroach on his space.
Yeah, and he's going to have to go through a lot of fire to make that happen. So I can see a knockout happening too. But yeah, I'm not really sure how this one's going to go. I'm just going to sit back, grab a popcorn, and enjoy it.
Yeah, considering how Jamel Charlo fought, was one of the Jackson?
John Jackson.
John Jackson. Considering how that fight went, I'm just wondering, I think if there's any stoppages, it's going to be in the latter half of the fight. As you can see, you can actually take advantage of Jamel early, but he does come more toward the latter half of the fight.
Yeah. So let's go on to the main event where we got Terrell Gausha challenging Erislandy Lara for Lara's WBA belt, right?
Yes.
So we all know that we really don't care for the WBA because they have champions in every division. But Lara is one of those mini champions. I think Andre is a WBA champion. No, he's WBO.
I believe he's WBO. Unless he has that an interim belt or whatever they say.
They got the super, they got the interim, they got the regular, they got just the WBA. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So we got one guy in Lara who has been in with a lot of guys. He is highly experienced, highly skilled, but for some reason he's still pretty easy to hit. Versus a guy in Gausha who hasn't fought anyone close to the talent level of Lara, but he's got some skills that can give Lara some issues. One of those issues is forward pressure. Gausha is one of those guys that likes to get in your face and work fast combinations. His jab is kind of slow, he pushes it a bit, but when he starts to reel off combinations, the difference is night and day in the hand speed. He's not necessarily a powerful guy, but he punches hard enough to get guys respect. Lara, who can punch pretty decently as well, also likes to, kind of pot shot guys and like just kind of get the decision unless the knockout is like completely obviously there, then he'll get it.
Right, which is a problem because if he's pot shotting, he has a tendency. A lot of people talk about people running, boxers running, turn into some names who won't be named and others that do. With Lara, at times, he actually is running.
Yeah, he does give up too much ground at times if he notices a guy that's trying to get to him and he's not deterring him with his pot shots. This may happen in this fight, and unfortunately that does kind of take away from the excitement factor, and it also takes away from the skill factor because he's not close enough to engage and score points, whereas someone like a Lomachenko or Terrence Crawford, they make you miss and they immediately make you pay, or Andre Ward, someone like that. Lara completely goes around the ring and then has to do a full reset again, so he can really take the action completely away. And if he does that enough, it starts to look like he's not in control, even if he is. So that's something to look out for against Gausha.
So with Gausha, he's going to not get frustrated with the over movement or the constant movement of Lara. Because of that, he may make mistakes. So he has to stay calm and composed. And he has to take advantage when he does get on the inside. If you watch Lara versus, say, Angulo, or Lara versus Canelo, or even the Martirosyan fight, you can see that pressure bothers him. But those guys were walking him down. At this point, Gausha will probably want to find some way to cut off the ring. Granted, his jab isn't fast, but if he would just use his footwork side to side, side to side. And I'm not saying he doesn't have really fast feet, but it's just those little movements from side to side just to make him change and reset again, because it's going to move, stop him, just to kind of trap him. Then you throw your punch. Then you try to corral him.
But I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I think Lara can pop shot his way to a decision. So we'll see what we get, and we'll be back on the recap. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. Let us know what you think down in the comment section. Social media down below as well. And we'll see you guys in the recap. Till then, fight on.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.